Welcome to the Pandemic Market Volatility Assistance Program webinar for producers. I'm Lauren Becker with the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service Dairy Program, which is charged with administering this program. In this webinar, we will go through the details of this assistance program. If you have questions following the presentation, they can be submitted to pmvap@usda.gov. We'd like to clarify a few items before we get started. First, the Pandemic Market Volatility Assistance Program is not part of the Federal Milk Marketing Order Program. While this program will utilize some federal order data to determine producer payments, this program is distinctly different and will be administered out of USDA in Washington, D.C., not the local federal order offices. In addition, the producer payments we will be discussing will not be a part of the federal order pool. Rather, they will be a separate and distinct payment from USDA through your handler or co-op. Similarly, this program is not run through the Farm Service Agency. You do not need to go into an FSA office to provide or obtain data or to receive payment from the program. USDA will use data already available and work with your paying handler to make program payments. The purpose of the Pandemic Market Volatility Assistance Program, or PMVAP, is to provide pandemic assistance payments to dairy farmers who received a lower value for their milk due to market abnormalities caused by the pandemic and ensuing federal policies from July through December 2020, when volatile milk pricing was most pronounced. Payments to dairy farmers under the program may be up to $350 million and are limited to 5 million pounds of annual production per producer. A dairy farmer is eligible for payment if 1. You meet the adjusted gross income requirements. You will need to certify to your handler or cooperative in writing that you meet the AGI requirement. To meet the AGI requirement, you as a producer or farm entity must either have an AGI of less than $900,000 average for tax years 2016, 2017, and 2018, or 75% of your adjusted gross income must come from farming, ranching, or forestry-related activities. This is the same AGI threshold applicable under the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program 2, also referred to as CFAP2. Therefore, if you received a CFAP2 payment, you can attest to your handler that you meet the AGI requirements for this program. Your handler will contact you over the next month to obtain your certification. It is important for you to respond to your handler or cooperative, as failure to respond will result in your ineligibility to receive a payment and elimination from the program. Second, a dairy farmer is eligible if their handler or cooperative participated in the Federal Milk Marketing Order during July through December 2020. To participate in the program, USDA AMS will establish an individual agreement with each eligible handler and cooperative. Handlers and cooperatives have received notification of eligibility to participate in the program, and USDA has already begun meeting individually with each to begin drafting their agreement. You might be wondering why USDA is using agreements with handlers and cooperatives as a means for distributing payments to producers instead of you going to your local Farm Service Agency office. Payment calculations are based on the handler or cooperative's participation in the Federal Milk Marketing Order Program. Your handler or cooperative has the data needed for USDA to make proper payment calculations, and this is information you as an individual producer are not likely to have. Before we go into more detail, we understand this is your first time seeing the information presented today, and it is a lot of information. Rest assured that USDA is working closely with your handlers and cooperatives to explain the details and provisions of the program. USDA will be conducting verifications to ensure the program monies are completely and accurately distributed and other provisions of the program are met. There are 2 payment calculation steps contained in each agreement that determine what you as a producer are eligible to receive. First, USDA will calculate a lump sum payment due to the handler for the volume of milk that was regulated by the Federal Milk Marketing Order. Second, USDA will calculate how that money is then distributed to producers. The amount of money due to the handler or cooperative from USDA to pay its producers is determined by the following: the volume of the handler or cooperative's milk that was regulated by the Federal Milk Marketing Order program during July through December 2020, and a monthly rate that is 80% of the difference between the old and the current Class 1 price formulas. Because prices change every month, and there are 11 federal milk marketing orders, that means there are 66 different payment calculation rates USDA will use to determine how much money is due to the handler or cooperative's producers. Eligible milk per producer or farm entity is limited to 5 million pounds annually of milk marketed, which is applied during the period of July through December 2020. Milk in excess of this cap is not eligible for payment. We want to stress that USDA will be working closely with your handler or cooperative to determine producer payments based on the factors just described. In addition, USDA will verify that each handler and cooperative made producer payments correctly. It is important to emphasize that each calculation is based on proprietary data specific to each handler or cooperative, which will be kept strictly confidential by USDA. The next step in the payment process is determining how the lump sum payment to each handler or cooperative must be distributed to its producers. It is not possible for USDA to provide a program-wide uniform producer payment rate because so many variables go into a producer's payment. These variables are outlined on this slide. Another factor to consider in determining the producer payment rate is how your cooperative or handler originally paid its producers. Was both milk that was regulated and milk that was not regulated by the Federal Milk Marketing Order during the month reflected in the pay price? However your price was calculated during the July through December 2020 time period, handlers and cooperatives will be instructed to use the same method to distribute the PMVAP monies to all their dairy farmers. Therefore, producers whose milk was not regulated by a Federal Milk Marketing Order may still be eligible to receive a payment. These producers must still meet the AGI eligibility requirements, and the 5 million pound annual cap also applies. As you can see, there are many variables affecting the actual payment rate to an individual producer. USDA is working closely with your handler or cooperative to determine producer payments based on the factors just described. In all cases, whether your milk was marketed by a cooperative or proprietary handler, USDA will verify and approve in advance how the handler or cooperative will make payments to their dairy farmers. In addition, USDA will verify records of each handler and cooperative to ensure the producer payments were made correctly. No matter how your handler or cooperative operates, whether you are a member or non-member of a cooperative or supply a proprietary handler, once a co-op or handler receives producer payments from USDA, it must distribute all monies to producers promptly. In addition, PMVAP payments are considered taxable income and must be reported on your income tax filing. As part of the program, all handlers and cooperatives are required to provide education to all of their producers who receive a payment by March 2022. Your handler or cooperative may provide training on a wide array of dairy policy topics, similar to the ones listed in this slide. The educational component is designed to provide you with information on dairy policies and USDA programs available to dairy farmers, among other things. It will not focus on dairy production practices such as reproduction, nutrition, or general herd management. USDA will review and verify records of every handler and cooperative receiving and making producer payments to ensure the payments were distributed correctly. Verifications are targeted to occur in early 2022. USDA will also perform verifications to ensure the educational component was met and producer AGI certifications were received. Handlers and cooperatives will receive reimbursement for the producer education and administrative costs of participating in the program. A separate administrative payment will be issued to the handler. Producer payment amounts are not reduced to account for this administrative expense. The administrative reimbursement is completely separate. 100% of USDA producer assistant payments sent to handlers and cooperatives must be paid to producers. This slide outlines the program timeline. In September and October, handlers and cooperatives will be collecting certifications from producers that they meet the AGI requirements and providing data to USDA so that proper payment calculations can be made. The PMVAP goal is to have agreements with handlers and co-ops signed this fall. During the fall and winter, USDA will issue payments to handlers and cooperatives. Once a handler receives monies from USDA, payments will be made to producers. USDA anticipates that payments to producers should occur sometime over the winter. After all producer payments are made, USDA will review each handler and cooperative's records to verify payments were made correctly. We at USDA are looking forward to supporting you, our dairy farmer stakeholders, through this pandemic assistance program. As a reminder, we encourage you to provide your AGI certification to your handler or cooperative when asked. Unfortunately, failure to certify your AGI will result in your forfeiture of payment assistance from this program. If you have questions about the program, please visit our website, www.ams.usda.gov/PMVAP, or contact the PMVAP team at pmvap@usda.gov.